Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia.
Hello and welcome, friends, and thank you for joining us again for another discourse and examination of all things esoteric. I'm joined by my son, Justin James Garcia. Justin, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you doing today?
Doing well. It was a beautiful day. I love the fall weather coming in and the nice cool breeze. It's a fantastic time of year in Georgia. I hope everyone else is doing well wherever they may be. How about yourself?
Yep, weather was okay, pretty hot, but
Yeah, I
it's kind
love
of
that
that's
too.
that's tropical Georgia weather for you.
Yes,
We'll have
yes.
the 70s and then it'll go back up to 80 something and it'll waver
Right,
until true fall comes.
right, right. It will cool off a little bit with the storms coming over the weekend. But yes, I do still love the hot weather and spring and summer. But fall is definitely a beautiful time of the year. But what have you been working on, or how's Eliana?
Eliana is doing great. She's growing up. She's
Awesome.
starting to make sounds. We're trying to teach her the sounds of the alphabet, and today she made her
Oh,
first K sound.
really? That's so
Actually, Joy
awesome. How
said that she
exciting.
said Kogi, Kogi, which actually she said that as soon as Eliana woke up, she said Kogi. And in Korean, Kogi actually means meat. So she's like, give me meat. I'm tired of all this
That's
milk.
so funny.
No,
Right?
yeah, it's really funny. She has some flashcards. We're teaching her Korean flashcards, and
Awesome.
yeah, so learning the K sound is it's cool to hear to see her developing, and
Yes,
actually
yes.
learning and
Amazing.
getting smarter and smarter. Children are brilliant. How
Yes,
children's minds
yes.
work to pick up, to be able to learn language, from scratch is just absolutely mind
Right.
blowing. Amazing.
It really is. They are the true miracle and watching, every second of every moment of every day and their development. Yeah, what an exciting time. But this
Hmm.
evening, we are gathered for our monthly examination of prophecy in the news, and there seems to be a lot going on. I saw just recently that there was a huge volcano erupting somewhere near Spain, and that a lot of people are, being put at risk, and that there's just I
Hmm.
don't know if you've seen the video of the mountain erupting and the lava, and it's amazing. The light show, and there was even lightning captured, which seemed to hit and penetrate the heart of the mountain. And it said that it was sometime thereafter that it also began to erupt. So very interesting and certainly a weird anomaly, but there is a lot going on in the world, certainly.
Yeah, we were told these natural disasters would definitely be picking up, like labor pains, and we see that
Yeah.
earthquakes are happening all over the world. But before we get deep into our conversation, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's joining on Revolution Radio
Yes.
and everybody who's joining on the YouTube live stream. It's awesome to see you all. Doc Michael, Diane, John, Harden, Reconnect in Nature, Cynthia Wood, Golgotha, Dot to Dot, Dale, Gary, Lioness for Jesus, Octavia, Iris, Lisa, Jeff, awesome to see you, Marie. Thanks for joining in, guys. Thanks for helping grow
Yes.
this family and for spending time with us. And as always, if you have any headlines that have been confirmed, please feel free to share them in the chat. We would love to cover some of that information because we do our as much research as we can, but there's so much stuff going on around the world. You can't
Right.
really take all of it in. So if you know something that we haven't discussed yet, please feel free to share. Lioness for Jesus has asked a couple times, can you do a video on Ezekiel 40 through 48? And maybe one day you could focus on that, or maybe we could focus on that one day. But as far as my belief on Ezekiel 40 through 48 is definitely a millennial age. So
yes,
that's interesting to see that. We'll be there with the Messiah as the high priest operating in the temple. The sacrifices will still be taking place. There will still be new people being born. It's really an interesting insight into what the millennial age will be like, and that's just my faith and my belief. But so man, there's just so much going on in the world, and honestly, it's like really, really hard to even look at what's going on because there's so much propaganda. It's just like, it's really frustrating, when you read about all the propaganda that's happening. And now, we're having this conversation where we're in America and we should have freedom of speech, right? But we have to really take care on the words that we use, or else we're going to be shut down. And, not just shut down by the social media giants, but actually it's been confirmed that the White House is actually working with social media to censor American people when they talk about things that the American government disagrees with. And, they're definitely not infallible. They've been wrong about plenty of things, but, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. If they say something that you don't agree with and you want to bring that out, you're going to get silenced. Either you're going to be deplatformed, or in extreme cases, you will be jailed. And that's straight out of Fox News. This is actually a pretty famous guy. This Marine officer went viral because he was blasting military leaders over, the Afghanistan exit. And, he was very critical of what happened and just saying the things that we were all thinking. But they threw him in jail because of his critique.
Wow.
Lieutenant colonel.
My God.
A lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps was thrown in jail because he was questioning the success of, or the failure of this operation.
Yeah.
And clearly, it's so ridiculous that they keep, saying this was a triumph and such a great thing. We're finally done. We're done with this war. But anyone in their right mind knows that's not the end of the war on terror. You're just giving this country back to the hands that we went to try to take it from. You know what I mean? We went to war against the Taliban, and now we're literally working with them. They're actually trying to get a seat at the United Nations now. So believe it or not. So totally crazy stuff. Totally crazy. Absolutely ridiculous. And you have to think there's something going on behind the scenes. There was some deal done. What in the world were they thinking? Just leaving billions of tax dollars worth of equipment behind it. Trump went on social media or somewhere today. He said that the Afghan exit strategy was like something out of a child's mind. I think children's minds are brilliant because they're learning so fast, but they definitely don't have the strategy that it would take to pull off something like that, right? But that's basically what we see is there was no thought behind it. It just makes no sense. Or there's very calculated thought, and we're just not being told the truth. I don't, I don't know, but the generals that were, in charge of this exit, they're refusing to resign. They're just saying, we did everything perfectly. Everything was properly done. Everything's great. But how can you really say that when you lost billions of U.S. tax dollars and you literally armed our enemies to the core, like with advanced weaponry that we paid for. Our tax dollars paid for.
Well, in my opinion, that was exactly the idea.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did, and they perfected it. And it's the same thing. Like, a lot of people don't realize and understand the deeper aspects of what's going on and the shady deals at higher levels. It's the same thing when the military and special ops went into Afghanistan and were working with the Northern Alliance to hunt down and target, the Taliban and the warlords that were at that time um, ruling over certain provinces, and those that were also in communication and working with the Osama bin Laden, and that whole the as far as the Al Qaeda, which means the base, working there. But and Seymour Hersh reported this, and people were absolutely blown away. In our military, special forces, they were shocked and alarmed at what happened. But they finally cornered them to a certain province, a certain area in Afghanistan, and they couldn't believe it. But the military actually landed and flew in a bunch of the large, C-51 or whatever, those huge cargo aircraft, flew them in, landed in at an airport, and then evacuated all of Al Qaeda and bin Laden to Pakistan and put them under the authority of the ISI, which a lot of people don't understand this either. But the Pakistani ISI was tasked by the CIA to set up Al Qaeda and the Taliban and to fund them and to give them the equipment that they needed to become a successful terrorist organization and influence in that particular country. And so it's really just an extension. All the equipment that was left, all of the logistics behind what seems to be just, complete stupidity, there's actual strategy behind it. And the powers that be that we don't understand, Oz behind the mask, those that are truly manipulating and escalating the war on terror and of terror, they perfectly orchestrated exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to arm to the teeth the Taliban and put them in charge of that area and to give them the military equipment to legitimize and to also to hold on to their power, their control. And it's always that way, in the same manner that Saddam Hussein was, in Iraq. He was also propped up as a puppet government. This has been the way of it for a very long time. Even Pol Pot in Cambodia, with the slaughter of 2 million people, and all that was going on with the knowledge of the CIA. It's always that way. And when people start to really look at and examine, it's only when you are able to understand the controlled opposition and how the false left-right paradigm is just an illusion. It's all just the inner workings of the heads, tails. It doesn't matter. It's the same side of the same coin. And Republican, Democrat, all that's just a facade. It's all a dog and pony show. And so people really need to understand that in order to make sense of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminds me of the 3rd century of the church after the Messiah came. The enemy, he'll try to get in and infiltrate and establish an authority over any group of people. And with that authority being established, that's supported through monetary power or militaristic power, they'll create a false authority to rule the masses, to rule any group. And
exactly.
of course it's different with the Roman Catholics doing that to innocent, believing Christians. But I think the same type of thing happened here with the Taliban and all of these alphabet organizations setting up more alphabet organizations over there in the Middle East, so that they could usurp authority and try to actually control and use what was already taking place with what they call radical Islam, which we know is just, they're fundamentalists. They believe what the Quran says, and they're just trying to fulfill the prophecy that they believe will happen, and the Western governments are trying to control that as well, to take that to their advantage. And I suppose this organization that we've propped up now for a couple decades, I guess a few decades now, it's nothing new.
Several,
it's that same type of divide and conquer strategy, and then create a false authority to reign and rule over all of the various sects.
Right. Yeah, the Taliban, they were funded by, again, the CIA through the Pakistani ISI during the 80s when they were at war with the Russians. And that was the way that, our government was able to influence and to fight against the Russian communists, which that whole thing, communism and, capitalism, that's all another controlled opposition, false left-right paradigm. And that was used as a way to divide the world all through after the World War II, through the Cold War, and to escalate wars and division. But again, it's all controlled by the same people. They fund both sides. They make money off of the arms deals in the same way that, the Iran-Contra deal where I forget his name, Oliver North, the lieutenant colonel or colonel, Oliver North was found funding the Iran-Contras and sending them arms shipments in the same manner that Ronald Reagan was on TV talking about, how they were terrorists and, that we're going to go and get them. We're going to stop the communist movement and all this. But they're funding them. They're sending them military equipment, trading drugs for weapons. I mean, they're into a lot of shady stuff, and the American people just don't understand, and that's why everything seems to be a cluster, but it's not. It's all being perpetuated, exactly orchestrated in the manner that the powers that be truly want things to happen. In the same way that, here in America, that during the whole Black Lives Matter, they allowed everybody to riot, all the businesses to be destroyed, and then they clamped down afterwards against, the right, our right to assemble, freedom of what should be free speech. All of that is, they're cracking down on our rights and freedoms, but they allowed things to escalate to a manner where they could then, say that, oh, we can't let those kind of things happen. Even with the way that the Capitol riots happened, all that was allowed, but there's agendas that we don't understand, ulterior motives that people can't make sense of. Yeah. But, when you read about in the protocols and the secret covenant and some of the information that we put out there, even the instructions, the secret instructions of the Jesuits, those things are revealed. And, that's why I think it's important for people to study the writings, even the whole concept and the ideology behind the Georgia Guidestones, because those kind of things will let you know what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, definitely. There's this quote that I've been seeing a lot recently, and it's, the freedoms that we give up today are the ones that our children will never know existed. And it's just step by step, little by little. Actually, these days it feels like it's a lot by a lot.
Right.
We're just losing our rights slowly but surely. And honestly, it's time to really just stop with the whole like left-right paradigm. But I still kind of see the left, maybe the right and the left are two puppets, for the same dragon, but the left are just downright communists. Of course, the people in power, the people in power are working for the same agenda, but the American people, or the people around the world, right wing, I honestly, I feel like I know a lot of, believers, like kind-hearted, true believers who identify as, conservative, right-wingist, right? But if you try to talk to a liberal that actively supports the left, there's really no sense there. Like, you have to support abortion. You have to support all these unnatural things, evil things, and they're not just liberals anymore. They're straight up communists.
Right.
That just is what it is. There's, we've said this plenty of times. There's this concept called creeping socialism, and democracies historically have continually moved little by little towards becoming a socialist society. And that's what we see here. Even though we have a free market society, we're becoming more and more dependent on the government. And, less, there's a new pandemic now, the pandemic of the labor shortage. And people are just becoming totally dependent on the government. They don't want to work. They don't even have to, They're talking about making more stimulus plans. And maybe for some people who are like in these crazy areas that their government is just like absolutely not allowing them to function, maybe it's necessary because they don't have food to eat, But I gotta say, I'm really thankful that we live in a conservative state here in Georgia. We are like operating like normal, Last week we had the Gwinnett County Fair. That's like right down the street from our house, and there were literally like thousands of people gathered, and we were just, some people have their masks. I'm sure some people were vaccinated or whatever, but a vast majority are just people that are out soaking up some sunshine, eating some, very bad food at the fair, funnel cakes and candy apples and barbecue and turkey legs, and they don't care about all this propaganda war, this psychological war that has been going on for the past year and a half. We're just living our lives. Like, businesses are open, masks are, voluntary. If you want to wear it, you wear it. If you don't, you don't. And, we're fine. They had a CV tent set up like right next to our house, like a couple blocks away, for people to come get tested and stuff like that. And literally it was empty every single time we drove by it, like dozens and dozens of times. There was just never anyone there. And you always hear there's so much propaganda, that like, oh, the ICUs are full of the people who haven't done the hokey pokey, full of people,
Yes.
But it's just not true. It's not true, All those pictures that they put out last year, they were, found to be set up, fake pictures, shot in a studio. The same way that, Biden got his booster hokey pokey. He did the booster hokey pokey. And even Stephen Colbert, he came out in his show last night and was like, it was obvious that Biden was on a set. The windows behind him were like totally unreal. He wasn't in the White House, and then some pictures got leaked. He was literally in like a studio being recorded getting this, doing the hokey pokey booster.
Right.
It's so funny, like whether he did it or not, I don't know. It's just for show now. It's just for show. And you don't know what to believe. I definitely don't believe what they say, what he says.
Yeah.
Because I've been unmasked. I'm not done the hokey pokey for the past year and a half, and we're fine. That's my testimony,
Right. Yeah, it's all the world's a stage, exactly that. It truly is, and all of what they are doing with the propaganda. And this is something that I wrote about too in my 5th book, Awaken to the New World Order, where I spoke about and wrote articles about, because at that time I was writing for the Populist Party of America, which was a huge platform for truth, and a lot of people published there. But anyways, the articles that I wrote, I gathered together in this book, Awaken to the New World Order. But I wrote about how the government was actually funding a propaganda arm in the same manner that during World War II, the Nazis were funding through Joseph Goebbels a propaganda arm to sway public sentiment and to guide and to lead public opinion in the manner that they would want to support the things that they were doing, and to continue to escalate the power of the Nazi Socialist Party at that time and their grip over the German people. And that's exactly what, during the time of George Bush, he was in office, when I was writing all these articles, but there was a whole huge amount of money, several billions of dollars, that was being sent to this particular propaganda arm. And what they would do is they would create the news stories, and then they would send these news stories to the different stations, and you would see the same message repeated and parroted on every news channel, ABC, CBS, NBC. Didn't matter who it was, a Fox, left or right, whatever, conservative, Democrat, whatever. They would all parrot the same news story. It would be all the different anchors, the different people that, headline news or whatever, but they would say the exact same thing that was put out, and a declaration of, what was news and the supposed truth. And so investigative journalism, what the media should be, because our Constitution guaranteed the rights of the free press so that they would remain vigilant on a tyrannical government. And yet now they are just an extension of that tyrannical government. And we see that laid out exactly in the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, in that manuscript of how to dominate and take over world control. They spoke about the importance of uh, you know, subverting the free press and making them nothing more than an extension of that power. And certainly they have achieved that for a very long time now.
Yeah, you're totally right. I feel like we've covered so much of the protocols, but if you haven't already,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everybody probably has a copy of that book. You should definitely, if you don't, get a copy of that book from sacredwordpublishing.com, The Illuminati Secret Covenant. and that contains the occult technology of power and the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, and it really does lay out so much, and it makes sense of so many things that we see in the world. Like, why are there such ridiculous leaders in every nation around the world?
Right.
Like, and you'll come to find out that's set up. It's meant to be that way. Like, why are we being set up to shout? We're being set up to shout, please, give us a good leader, and finally, there will be a quote unquote good leader that will come, and that's in accordance with the scripture as well. The globalist government, the New World Order, is being established, is being set up. And, that agenda is definitely at play. But this key component of the agenda is how they're going to usher in the Antichrist, the one king to rule them all. And it's definitely, there's just so much, from the way they control the press to the way they control all the banks. There's so much interesting things that are going on. And, one of the things that maybe we could talk about for a minute. Some sources are saying that J.P. Morgan Chase, the CEO, is warning that his bank is preparing for a potentially catastrophic U.S. credit default. And that's going to happen. There's no way to avoid it. Eventually it's going to happen. So we shouldn't be surprised when we see that. But what's also got my attention is, at the same time, right now, the Federal Reserve is actually looking to establish a central bank digital currency. All right, let me rephrase that, or not rephrase it, reiterate. The Federal Reserve is looking to create a central bank digital currency. And, while, as long as it's just the American central bank or the London central bank or, the whatever nation's central bank, I don't think that would technically be the mark of the beast yet, but we see the globalist agenda at play. And when all of these central banks finally say, hey guys, we know that you've had your own nations and everything, but actually we've all been, in it together. All the banks, we're all owned by the same families, and we're just going to establish one bank, one central bank over the whole world. And by the way, here's our cryptocurrency. You're going to have to make transactions in this cryptocurrency. When you see that happen, then we definitely have the infrastructure completely set up for the mark of the beast to be implemented. So, it's just crazy. Every month that we meet, there's more and more steps being taken to fulfill the biblical prophecies, to fulfill, I don't think they're trying to fulfill biblical prophecies. It's just they're doing what they can to establish that new world order and prepare for the reign of the Antichrist. But thankfully, we have the Bible to tell us what they're going to do before they actually do it.
Right.
What's your opinion on the central bank and, of course, crypto?
Well, I definitely think that, Bitcoin, whoever started it, Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he is, there's billions of Bitcoins somewhere that he has access to that he's never touched. And so we don't know who he is and who this person is, but certainly digital currencies are part of the movement towards what will be ultimate control, because you can have a digital currency that especially when it gets manipulated by government and the powers that be, but it is, I believe, prophetic to be leading to. And I'm not saying that, it's like a tool, just like the internet. When the internet was created, the infrastructure of it, it was absolutely liberating for a lot of people. And the internet was used in a manner that people were able to educate themselves and come to knowledge on a lot of things that had yet remained secretive. and a lot of the inner workings of the Illuminati were exposed, and people became aware of, even terms like the New World Order and false flag terrorist events and things like that, government-sponsored terror, all these different things. People, especially those that were seekers of truth, were able to, myself included, were able to utilize the internet as a tool for um, understanding and for greater insight into not only the conspiratorial side of the New World Order, but also the biblical, the prophetic side of what's happening and what's been written into the Gospels and revealed by the prophets over centuries and millennia. And that's why I personally believe that the study of prophecy is so critical for this, for the people of this day and age, those that truly want to know, because it is a difficult thing to wade through the propaganda and to try to make sense of what is disinformation and what isn't. The the cards have been stacked now to such a degree that you have to understand that there is this propaganda arm, that the New World Order is uh, swaying and putting out disinformation in order to hide the truth of issues and topics and matters, and that the voices of truth are being squelched, being eradicated, so that whereas there used to be abundance of platforms that and individuals that were able to help others to make sense of what's truly going on, and the illusion, parading as reality, to decipher that illusion and to make sense of it, those voices are disappearing. The
Yeah,
watchmen are
no,
being
definitely.
eradicated.
And that's something
Watchwomen.
that,
So
sorry to cut you off, but
you're fine.
that's
Go
something
ahead.
we've been talking about for all year as well. Is
Yeah.
that purging of the conservative mindset from upper upper portions of the government, from influential areas in the government, and just influential areas in education, all over, everywhere that you see, and whether it be even in the news, if you have anything to do with what they call conspiracy theories, they're going to purge you.
Hmm.
But the crazy thing is that that's literally happening in the U.S. government now with that Security
Right.
Clearance Act of 2021. If you're
Right.
associated with MAGA, if you're associated with conspiracy theories, you can look that up. The Security Clearance Act of 2021. You cannot get a security clearance if you're associated with the Capitol riots, or if you're a conspiracy theorist. They left that term pretty broad, conspiracy theorist. But yeah, they
Right.
really are. They're purging that mentality, and where we used to be like strength and diversity, right? Strength and diversity. We have
Right.
many people who still love each other because we're still human beings and we're in the nation together. We want the best for the nation, right? But that's
Right.
no longer the case. And you see that at Washington University. They created a segregated housing now specifically for black students. So imagine if
Wow.
that happened like 40 years ago, all right?
Right.
Washington University creates segregated housing specifically for black students. Seems evil, right? Like
Right.
that's discrimination. That's segregation, right?
Yes. It is.
MLK Jr. He gave his life trying to fight against segregation, right? But now the liberal mindset or the communist mindset is they're just pushing for more division like this for some reason. And they're actually, we went through the desegregation era, right? Everything got desegregated. Now
Right.
we lived in that generation after MLK. We started integrating together. We fought wars together. We learned together. We worked together. In some cases, people even made babies together when they weren't in the same race. And
Uh-huh.
that I don't think that was terrible when they were, just not looking at people for the color of their skin. But now we're in what I've now termed the re-segregation period. The re-segregation period, because we're now supporting the segregation of minorities. Like Washington University
Right.
creates a segregated housing specifically for black students. Imagine, what if it said Washington University creates a segregated housing specifically for white students?
Uh-huh.
What kind of uproar there would be?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Yeah.
this is the resegregation era where the divisions are being made even more. It's like I don't know, anything that pushes the agenda of hate is being supported by the news, by the
Yeah.
media, and by the government even.
Right. And the targeting of whistleblowers and truth speakers. It reminds me of
Right.
when the Biden was installed, this last selection process. There was a Republican Congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, that is knowledgeable and understands, a lot of what is termed conspiracy theories and all of that, and even ran on a campaign of truth to get elected to office and to represent her state and her constituents. And yet, as soon as she went to Washington to begin her work as a representative, she was immediately targeted by the left, the Democrats, and was made a scathing laughing stock for her beliefs and these so-called conspiracy theories and her belief in some of the things that are things that we come to know as truth, even 9/11 and things of that nature. But it reminds me of how there was a Georgia Congresswoman, Cynthia McKinney. She was also, at the time that she was in office, knew that something was not right with the official story, spoke about it. Even a friend of mine, Senator Nancy Schaefer, who was looking into child protective services and how they were targeting and helping to, like there was this pedophile ring which is installed in the higher echelons of government. This is talked about in the Franklin cover up, but she was assassinated in her home for, revealing and talking about these truths. And so anybody that understands truth in the manner that we do, government is not allowing them to be in a seat or a position of power. And just like you said with the security clearance, they are, not allowing anybody that's a free thinker to be part of the select group that can actually hold and become privy and knowledgeable on the so-called classified information and government secrets, national security. And all of that is being controlled and contrived. And, the official story is being promoted. And now we're at a generation that they don't even remember 9/11. The generation born now, they are born at a time that happened after the events of that day. So they don't really even understand the immense repercussions of what happened in that day and in those moments, and how the world changed to put us on a path where, again, the whole thing of the war on terror and the war of terror that would not end in our lifetimes that was a coup d'état by the Illuminati, and they put the world, um, basically, let the whole world know that there's a power, just like they speak about in some of the New World Order quotes, that is behind all the governments of the world, that even the people in the upper echelons of government dare not speak about it under the hush of their voice because of the repercussions of speaking out against it. And so these kind of things, there was a time when whistleblowers and those that reported on government, where government was illegally utilizing or doing something against what should be the constitutional rights of the people, like Edward Snowden. He should be held as a hero, and yet he is now targeted and has been his whole life since he came out and revealed to the American people what the government was doing, how they were spying on their own
Right. And the ones
citizens.
that actually did the crimes are just walking free.
Right, exactly. And they haven't even been, slapped on the wrist. I mean, there's been no repercussions for them. And yet Snowden's had to, with his wife, live in exile in any country that would accept him and allow him to have the protection of his freedoms. And the government is still openly trying to fine and has declared him, to be shot on sight. And so that's what's happening to whistleblowers now. So nobody's going to come out and speak the truth and let people know what's really going on, because they're putting themselves at risk to do so.
Yeah, just like that Marine lieutenant colonel who got thrown in prison
Right.
for speaking out.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, that's just absolute insanity. It just feels like we're like in China or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know.
And he's being made an example of.
Right. Exactly.
In the same manner that Snowden was made an example of, and even I forget the guy's name, the WikiLeaks guy, Julian Assange, in the same manner that he was hunted down, and there's no protection of the rights of the press, and nobody is willing to leak information to the media anymore because you don't know if they're part of the government and working on behalf of the government. And instead of speaking the truth and revealing it to the public, if they'll could turn you in and get you locked up for even sharing. I mean, it's insanity. Yeah, we are like communist China in many ways.
Oh, it's gonna get more
Worse.
and more creepy. In New York, there were like 70. All right, I don't know if this number was right. I read in one headline 70,000 healthcare workers in New York City are giving up their jobs over the hokey pokey mandate.
Really?
That's a lot of people. But guess what?
That is a lot.
New York governor confirms the National Guard is going to fill in for those fired healthcare workers.
Oh,
so we see the National Guard, the military, is going to start moving in to fill these jobs, that are getting taken away from law-abiding citizens because they refuse the hokey pokey.
Wow.
But also, in Massachusetts, the headline came out that the National Guard is going to start driving kids to school amid bus driver shortages. So you see headlines like this are just popping up more and more. It's like eventually the military is just going to take over all of the jobs. Like how involved does the government need to be in our lives? They need to
Right.
like just back off, man. Like if we don't have bus drivers to go to school, like let it sort itself out. That's what a free market society does. The government doesn't need to
Right.
step in and be involved in every single aspect of our lives. It's it's like we're just being boxed in.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. These are very weird and trying times, and yeah, nobody wants to work. Restaurants, labor force, small business have been decimated, and the transnationalists, the huge, large corporations are stepping in. Mom and pop is disappearing, and it's all just the huge corporations that are all, owned anyways by the 1%, and then those businesses or corporations or small business that's not owned by them are being run out of business and or purchased from the top down and controlled by these same elitist forces. It's unfortunate, but this is, again, what the Bible tells us of the coming beast kingdom in the system that of control that is being implemented, and of which people don't understand. Even the technology that they're utilizing is being used to spy on them and to keep records and tabs of everything that goes on in their lives. I mean, even now, you have Siri and Alexa and all that just listening to everything that people do over the course of their daily lives. It's absolutely insane, but it is the brave new world.
Yeah, Justin Mack said in the chat, if you leak information about those elite pedophiles, you will be targeted by the alphabet agencies. You're totally right. This channel almost got shut down for that very reason.
Very reason.
We were exposing that, exactly what you just mentioned, Justin Mack, and then we got a community guideline violation for bullying.
Right.
For bullying. I will do more than bully somebody if they come after my daughter. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, no doubt, right? Right. It's it's sad and it's unfortunate that those kind of people are being protected by the government, by
the good old
justice.
Boys Club.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the rulers of wickedness in high places.
Right, in high places, yes. But we are almost to break, and so we will pick it up on the other side. And again, we thank all of you for taking the time to join us, and we give all honor and praise to the Most High God that we still have a platform to even share this kind of information and to help those of you that are truly trying to make discernment over, what's going on in the world, and that have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the mind to understand, that we are able to provide you a platform to go to be able to congregate and share fellowship with others. And so we will be right back.
Yep, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Look forward to continuing the conversation on the other side.
Yeah, just a few minutes, and we'll be right back in probably 4 or 5 minutes.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
Aloha oe, aloha oe, eke o na nano, I ka lipo.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures.
Hello friends, thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia.
All right. Thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
All right, welcome back everybody for a second hour, and we thank all of you for your prayers of protection over all of us. We greatly appreciate, and you know, we also pray for you in the same way daily, and so we include all of you in our prayers, and you know, with our meals and our drinks and everything. We're praying constantly in the same manner, and so thank you for that. And I think that's a beautiful thing that all of us can do, and it's something that's free, you know, and takes but a little bit of time, is just to include each other in our prayers, and to always you know, ask the Most High to place His hand of protection over us, and to keep us all safe, because this is certainly insane times. And we ask you to also to continue your prayers for our brother Rob Skiba, who is getting stronger, and there is update on his channel, and Sheila has been speaking out about, you know, about how his health is getting better, but that he still is in the hospital. And it's been a long time now, but we do pray for a quick recovery, and all of you definitely praying for your health and well-being in the same way. But Justin, did you have articles, or did you have any news stories or current events that you wanted to bring up specifically? I know we kind of just allowed the Spirit to lead over the last hour.
Yep. Yeah, I had a list of articles. We've touched on quite a few of them, but
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
just incorporating them in the conversation.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we have quite a few, and we do have to be careful how we talk about these things.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Also talking about the security clearance of 2021, the whole being a conspiracy theorist thing. Also, if you believe there was any errors in the selection process for the leader of the United States this, last year, then you are considered a conspiracy theorist, and you also cannot get your vaccine. Excuse me. You also cannot get your security clearance. You can get the hokey pokey if you want, for sure. They're gonna make sure you have access to that, but you can't get your security clearance if you believe there was any problems in that process of how Joe got into office. But got to talk about a couple headlines, because some of these conservative states are not backing down. They're continuing on with their due diligence and still investigating what happened in that. I don't know if I'm going to get flagged for saying the election process. So the first one says Arizona audit could not find the identity of 86,391 voters, and they don't appear to exist. And
imagine that.
About 74% of those are left wing. Also in Georgia, big development just came out. The headline reads, "They got caught. 24 criminal operatives caught on video stuffing Dropbox with 1,900 ballots in 3 days." So it was over a holiday weekend, the Columbus weekend, and there was a video, a security camera on this Dropbox, and only 24 people visited the Dropbox over the weekend. However, they ended up finding 1,900 ballots were submitted after that weekend. So interesting, you can do the math there. It doesn't seem like 24 doesn't equal 1,900. So it seems like, maybe there were some questionable things that did take place. It's just crazy, that was definitely felt like the beginning of the whole silencing process, as we saw a lot of states were still wanting to stand up and say, we don't certify, what everyone else is doing, and with good reason. But they were pressured and threatened and bullied and silenced until, it didn't even matter what the actual outcome was. So, unfortunately, I guess we've always said, the whole selection process, we really have no control over it anyways. Whoever the enemy wants to be sitting on that puppet seat is going to sit there.
Sorry, I somehow got muted, but I wanted to share for the people that don't know what I'm talking about, from the Occult Technology of Power. It's a quote that I often read, but I know that we have a lot of new listeners and a lot of people that don't know exactly what it is that I'm alluding to with regard to the false left-right. But it's, this is exactly in their own words. It's from an anonymous manuscript called The Occult Technology of Power, which you can find online, and which we include a portion of in the Illuminati Secret Covenant and Protocols, which we compiled together to help people to understand this false system. and how the left and the right really work together. But I'm just going to read a few paragraphs since I know we have a little bit of time, and this will again help people to understand better the Ponzi scheme that is capitalism, and also how they create money out of nothingness, and then they loan it to the governments at interest, and then they force the people to have taxes on their wages and earnings in order to pay down this debt, this illusory debt. But it says this, and I'm going back a little bit further than I normally do. The power of our finance capitalist money cult rests on a similar secret knowledge, primarily in the field of economics. Our power is weakened by real advances in economic science. Fortunately, the public at large and most revolutionaries remain totally ignorant of economics. However, we established money lords have been able to prolong and even reverse our decline by systematically corrupting economic science with fallacious and spurious doctrines. Through our power in the universities, publishing, and mass media, we've been able to reward the sincere professorial cranks whose spurious doctrines happen to rationalize in terms of common good the government-supported institutions, laws, and economic measures upon which our money power depends. Keynesian is the highest form of phony economics, yet developed to our benefit. The highly centralized mixed form of phony economics, the highly centralized mixed economy resulting from the policies advocated by Lord Keynes for promoting prosperity has all the characteristics required to make our rule invulnerable to our twin nemesis, real private competition in the economic arena and real democratic process in the political arena. Laissez-faire or free market classical economics was our original attempt to corrupt economic science. Its beautiful internal consistency blinded economists for many years to the fact that it had virtually nothing to do with current reality. However, we are so powerful today that it is no longer possible to conceal our imposing institutions with the appearance of free competition. Keynesianism rationalizes this omnipotent state which we require, while retaining the privileges of private property on which our power ultimately rests. Although the interim reforms advocated by Marx in his Communist Manifesto, such as central banking, income tax, and other centralizing measures, can be corrupted to coincide exactly with our requirements, we no longer allow Marxist movements major power in developed countries. Our coercive institutions are already in place. Any real steps towards communism would mean our downfall. Of course, phony Marxism is an excellent ideological veil in which to cloak our puppet dictators in underdeveloped areas. Secondarily, the power of the lords of money rests on an occult knowledge in the area of politics and history. We have quite successfully corrupted these sciences. Although many people are familiar with our secrets through such books as 1984 by the disillusioned George Orwell, few take them seriously and usually dismiss such ideas as paranoia. Since real politics is motivated by individual self-interest, history is viewed more accurately as a struggle for power and wealth. We do our best to obscure this self-evident truth by popularizing the theory that history is made by the impersonal struggles between ideas, political systems, ideologies, races, and classes. Through systematic infiltration of all major intellectual, political, and ideological organizations, Using the lure of financial support and instant publicity, we have been able to set the limits of public debate within the ideological requirements of our own money power. The so-called left-right political spectrum is our creation. In fact, it accurately reflects our careful, artificial polarization of the population on phony issues that prevents the issue of our power from ever arising in their minds. The left supports civil liberties and opposes economic or entrepreneurial liberty. The right supports economic liberty and opposes civil liberty. Of course, neither can exist fully, which is our goal, without the other. We control the right and left conflict such that both forms of liberty are suppressed to the degree that we require. Our own liberty rests not on legal or moral rights, but on our control of the government bureaucracy and courts, which aptly, the complex, subjective regulations we dupe the public into supporting for our own benefit. Innumerable meaningless conflicts to divert the attention of the public from our operations find fertile ground in the bitter hatreds of the right with the left. Right and left are irreconcilable on racial policy, treatment on criminals, law enforcement, pornography, foreign policy, women's lib, and censorship, to name just a few issues. Although censorship in the name of fairness has been useful in broadcasting and may yet be required in journalism, we generally do not take sides in these issues. Instead, we attempt to prolong the conflicts by supporting both sides as required. War, of course, is the ultimate diversionary conflict, and the health of our system depends on it. War provides the perfect cover of emergency and crisis behind which we consolidate our power. Since nuclear war presents dangers even to us, more and more we have resorted to economic crises, energy shortages, ecological hysteria, and managed political drama to fill in the gaps. Meaningless wars, though, always remain useful. We promote phony free enterprise on the right and phony democratic socialism on the left, and thus we obtain a free enterprise whose competition is carefully regulated by the bureaucracy that we control, and whose nationalized enterprises are controlled directly through our governments. In this way, we maintain a society in which the basis of our power, legal titles to property, and money remain secure, but in which the peril of free, unregulated competition is avoided and popular sovereignty is nullified. The democratic process is a sitting duck for our money power. Invariably, we determine the candidates of the major parties, and then we proceed to pick the winners. Any attempt at campaign reforms simply put the rules of the game even more firmly under our control. And so it goes on, and people should, read this document. You'll get a better understanding of what's really going on in the world. And again, how politics, Democratic, Republican, left, right, it's all just, controlled opposition. It's controlled by the power elites. The presidents, the candidates, they're selected, they're from the same bloodlines, the seed of Cain, that sit on the thrones of the entire world. They're all blood related. They're a family, a tight-knit family that control power through strategic marriage. And they have done this for thousands of years. And that's why it tells us in Scripture that, there is no eradicating the New World Order. It's going to take the Messiah returning to put an end to this phony, false left-right paradigm. And until the Messiah returns, this power, this matrix of control will remain and continue to consolidate and grow stronger until we see the Antichrist being revealed and given authority over this beast kingdom. And so, again, I spoke about how important it is to study prophecy, because it's through prophecy that we know the end from the beginning, as it has been revealed to the prophets by the Most High God. And when you understand that there is a bigger picture, a greater hand of control behind all things, then you'll understand, who the winning team is and which side to actually be on.
Yeah, the prophecy is definitely a blessing to have, and it's important to have it because it just further solidifies the faith that we can have in the Creator, because He's already foretold everything that would happen, and of course He can, because He is the Creator. He knows the end from the beginning. Yes. So yeah, it's important to understand He has told us. He has that capability. He is who He says He is. He is our Savior. And yeah, like you said, according to Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, there's going to be a stone that comes and completely destroys all those wicked kingdoms of the earth. And that is going to happen. That's what I say to everyone who I can, share the gospel with, that, this wicked world, this world of duality is temporary. We have to figure out where our alignments are going to be. Who are we going to align ourselves with? What is our goal in life? And our goal, of course, should be to share love and to share the message. To study the prophecy, to be able to share with others, hey, like the Bible said this was going to happen. Look at it. It's crazy. It's happening, right? Look at that.
Yes.
Also, the Bible also talks about the salvation that was freely purchased for you on the cross by our Savior, our Creator incarnate. That's the real goal, to win souls. So that's definitely the most important thing. But yeah, definitely such an awesome read that comes from that Illuminati Secret Covenant. And you can't get that. I shared the link in the chat for anyone who wants to access that. You can go to sacredwordpublishing.com and just search Secret Covenant or search Illuminati, and that book will come. It's also available in ebook form, as all of our books are available in ebook format. But yeah, so let's talk about CV for a little while.
Sure.
All right. I want to talk about CV because we've been talking about it for a year and a half, but we got to continue to bring new information as new information arises, and also interesting information as it arises. But first, let's start with this funny headline: "The Pope claims that his critics are performing the work of the devil." Just to give you a giggle. The Pope claims that his critics are performing the work of the devil. I would say probably the opposite. But anyways, just wanted to share. That one made me laugh when I saw that. All right, so, the UN met recently. And, Brazil's president, Bolsonaro, he's not going to do the hokey pokey. He doesn't dance that dance. And he says, I'm not going to dance that dance until the ones that are making the dance, become liable for those who get hurt doing the dance. So,
Good for him.
Yeah, so he's outspoken about that. Of course, now they're trying to incite riots in Brazil to try to overthrow him. Anyways, he was in New York City when he came for the UN meeting, and he was refused indoor dining and forced to eat pizza on a sidewalk ahead of the United Nations General Assembly.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy, silly. Right? The president of Brazil relegated to eating pizza on a sidewalk. You're a supposedly respected politician, one of our allies over there in Brazil, but you can't eat over here. If you walk indoors, there's a chance that you're gonna hurt somebody. So eat pizza on the side. Isn't that so funny?
Yeah, that's so
I don't
funny.
know why.
How
Like,
silly
who
can
is
you get?
still living in NYC? I would
Right.
not be living there. That's for sure. I would be
No,
up and out of that place.
no.
It's crazy that in my generation that gentrification is taking place, so places like that are just becoming more and more populated. But to me, I feel like there should be a great exodus out of there, especially with that headline we read. The thousands of healthcare workers that are giving up their jobs. Of course, I feel like there's going to be a big exodus out of those big cities, and I just honestly, we have to pray for the people who are going to be fired and losing their jobs for standing for their medical freedoms. Their
and to not be
rights
forced
over
into doing something that will put them at risk.
And it's just the start. This is just the start.
Oh yeah.
Who knows what? This is the beginning, a stepping stone. So what are they going to do next? Like force you to amputate your arm if something bad with our right arms starts happening, or force you to accept the mark of the beast because that's the only way that we can protect the population and save the world is if you accept that mark of the beast. And then if you don't accept it, what are we going to do? We're going to kill you, or you're not going to be able to participate in society, and you're going to starve.
Right.
Crazy. You see those stepping stones. You see prophecy unfolding slowly but surely. But all right, so now the UN is requiring everyone to do the hokey pokey in order to even speak to the assembly there. So
really,
clearly, globalist agenda at play, of course. All right, but I did want to bring forth one pretty cool update. And I don't know if we have any, ranchers out there listening in who know about this specific deworming drug that I shall not mention because we'll probably get immediately shut down. This deworming drug that has helped many people who have, got CV. But Uttar Pradesh in India has now announced that it is CV free due to the effectiveness of that deworming drug.
Wow.
Pretty cool, huh? Kind of reminds me of how Florida was doing really well with, hydroxy. I won't finish that word.
Yes, then they banned it, right?
Right, and now, it's banned. You get silenced if you even bring it up. If you even bring it up. Just, proves the agenda once more. It's not about your health. It's not about making everyone healthy again and returning to a normal life. It's about obtaining more and more power, more and more control. And as we read in the book of Revelation, Mystery Babylon deceives the entire world with her sorceries. And that word sorceries literally is pharmakeia. Pharmakeia in the Greek. Amazing, right? And then you look at the Georgia Guidestones, and you see there is a legitimate agenda at play. They don't care about us. They don't care at all about us. Our governments do not care about us. They don't even see us as, anything more than a number on a piece of paper. That's why when these big generals and politicians send our children to war and they do certain missions, there's this box that says acceptable casualties. And the general has to fill out that box and say, you know what, I think that the acceptable casualties to call this mission a success would be 2 or 10 or 100. We're willing to let that many people die, and it's worth it. It's worth it. Because we're just numbers on a piece of paper. We don't mean anything to them, but you have such a great meaning to your Creator. I really hope that you know that. Your Creator loves you so much. We were created so specially, so uniquely. You're an individual unlike anyone else. And your Creator loves you so much that He came into the world that He created and died on the cross for our sins. And His death gives us new life. And He didn't stay dead, of course. He's the Creator. He's the infinite one. He rose from the dead and gives us that promise also that we can defeat death through Him. I mean, that love that He has, we're all children who ran away from home, who've turned our backs on our Father. But He came to us, while we had left home, while we ran away, while we were, making friends with the enemies. And He came for us to remind us of His love for us and to prove that there is a way to come back to Him, to celebrate in His kingdom, because all of this evil, it's all going to be destroyed. Everything that we're talking about, all this wickedness, it's temporary. We're exposing it now, so prayerfully we can wake other people up to see that, there is a really evil agenda at play. But our end game is to let people know that while there is organized evil, there's also organized good. There is a divine good, and that good is God. God is good, and God is love, and that is the most important thing for us to know and to remember in this end time. We're all going to face so much persecution. Like, I know that many of you are already facing that persecution, especially some people that have reached out to us saying that because they're not going to do that hokey pokey dance, we're struggling, like they're going to struggle to put food on the table. It's so crazy, but no matter what suffering we go through in this lifetime, the Creator has promised you an infinite amount of peace when His kingdom arrives. An infinite amount of goodness and of love. And all the evil is going to be destroyed. And that infinite, when you think of any number that can be quantified, 1 through 1,000,000 through 1,000,000,000 or a gajillion, or the biggest number you can think of, the largest number that you could ever imagine, it's literally a dot, a speck of sand compared to infinity. And that's the kingdom that is to come. So all the suffering that we're going to go through in this world, guys, just know that it's worth it, and hang on to that hope of our Creator. And I really hope that nobody is thinking that you're going to make it to that kingdom by your own deeds, because none of us are worthy.
Right.
The
Yes,
sacrifice.
that price has been paid for us.
Amen.
And all we have to do is accept the grace and the privilege of, being part of that everlasting kingdom that the Most High has provided. It says in John, I go now to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many mansions. I just love that scripture. And, He says that He's going to come again, return for us, and that, and then we'll have that time, that Sabbath rest, that millennial reign, to be with Him and to learn directly from
that 1,000 years
the
is
Most
just
High.
the beginning.
Yes, just the beginning, and how incredible that time and that space, and to finally be there. I mean, the celebration of having endured all of this, especially all of written history, how it's all led to the preparation, the prophets, the revealing of the great and terrible day of the Lord, and how the wrath of God poured out on the wicked, and how the wicked have, been ruling and just escalating in their abominations, and just ruling with impunity, and slaughtering the innocents, and not just the innocents as far as innocent populations in war and the cannon fodder and all of that, but think of all the children that are daily slaughtered, and with the abortion agenda here in this country and worldwide, and just all the innocence, and the children are the ultimate most innocent, and how they're being there's all the serial killers, and just all the people that have gotten away with what they think, as far as their crimes, the evil that they perpetuated, and the things that they've done, the things that are covered over by darkness, and that people, even with all the possession, there's so much demonic influence in this world, and people messing around with Ouija boards and involved in Satanism, and the doing these dark magic and these rituals and ceremonies where they're conjuring devils and involved with spiritual forces that they don't understand. And this is a whole nother side of the evil that is not even mentioned by like the police, and what's going on with the justice system. And yet there's much crime being perpetuated by these very evil people. We talk about the seed of Cain and the blood oaths and the worship of the devil that is ongoing, and which is not spoken about and little known about, even though we do receive some insight from the people that are involved on those levels, and that finally come out of those systems and report and give us insight on what the Illuminati and the secret societies and the Masons, the Freemasons, and all of these orders of the dragon and the serpent, and all of this, all of the things that they're doing. I mean, there is organized evil happening on so many levels, and we just can't even understand that. It's unfathomable for us people, normal people, how it is that the Illuminati, they even victimize and sexually, mentally, emotionally victimize their own children, their own children, whereas parents and grandparents and people, they want to do nothing more than to provide a place, an environment where children can grow up in safety and comfort and joy and happiness, and just like little children, just running around playing and having a good time, and being just overwhelmed by the awesomeness of this world that the Most High has provided for us. And yet they would even abuse their own children. It's insane, and it's hard for us to wrap our minds around that there are people like that in this world.
Yeah, and those people look down on conservative believers for wanting to shield and protect our children from the world, and from the evil ways. There's this new Twitter tag that went viral. I don't know if you guys know what Twitter tags is, but Twitter is like a social media platform, and you can tag your post so that they go into like a big board with everyone else's post who made this tag. And there's a viral tag now that is exposing Christian schools. And this tag was started by a lady that calls herself Chrissy is judging hokey pokey refusers. And she said, "Are you also someone who attended Christian schools as a kid who wants the public to understand how extreme and authoritarian they are? Share your stories here and memories using the hashtag expose Christian schools." And I read through a bunch of these, and people are like, "Yeah, I was brainwashed into thinking that abstinence was a good thing, and that even if I kiss somebody outside of wedlock, then that's cheating on my future spouse." And I hate the Christian schools. They ruined my childhood. And it's like, when I read it, I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted to teach Eliana, of course, man. Like, I don't, start loving your future spouse now. There's no need to sleep around. And, the whole thing these days, at least, when I was in school, is moms were telling their daughters that you got to get practice with, evil things in bed. That way, when you get married, you're going to be satisfied. How evil is that? These young children, they're just whoring them out for temporary pleasures that will never satisfy the soul, and will separate you, further you from your true purpose in life and knowing your Creator. It's just so sickening and so sad, and especially as you mentioned the whole abortion agenda, that we've been brainwashed as a generation to not see babies for what they are.
Right.
Eliana was alive before she was born. But they would have you believe that in some places now they would let you take her life as long as she wasn't born yet, at any time through the pregnancy.
At any time. Yeah, up to third.
It's absolutely just, it's devastating to think about that's happening, in our cities.
Right.
It's being funded by our taxpayer dollars.
Right. And the person that actually does and performs late-term abortion, you've got to know you're doing something wrong, that you're murdering a child.
Yeah, if you bring out just the body parts,
right,
to dispose of them in whatever way they do,
forceps, and if it was just a couple weeks later, they could be born as a living baby, a living child. And it can only be somebody that is evil, that takes pleasure in hurting. And, again, there are those kind of people in this world, but that to actually be involved is just absolutely mind-blowing. That there are people that would actually perform and do that all in the name of supporting a woman's right to choose. That's just, it's insane to me.
Absolutely. It's just brainwashing. It's been a continual brainwashing of our people to not think for themselves, to not question what they've been taught. And that's why we have people walking around who think that we evolved from apes.
Apes, yeah, exactly. I did want to bring something forward that was shared in the chat room as well. I really appreciate the comment by R.J. Cooper. You can't fix stupid. But there was also mention of the conference that we are having, which will take place in May, or is it March? It's March or May of next year, the 27th through the
May
29th.
27th through 29th. Okay,
so it's May 27th through the 29th. We'll be holding our second conference, the Sacred Word Revealed, and the first time it was the end times, the prophecy. We were helping and sharing a lot of that, and we even took a trip to the Georgia Guidestones and explained all of that. But in this upcoming year, instead of doing the trip to the Georgia Guidestones, and this was made mention of in the chat room as well, is that we are hoping to have a day, an afternoon, where we can gather and perform baptisms for one another in living water, and to share that time and space with each other. And I think that's going to be just an amazing gathering. And so those of you that would like to join us, I know it's still a long ways ahead, but there will be a lot of great speakers, as there was in the first conference. But Justin, can you share the website where people can go to get more information on the conference? And
yeah, we don't have a lot of information out yet. You can bookmark sacredwordrevealed.com. When we get closer to the event, we'll reveal more information and specifics about exactly who the speakers are. But we're definitely this year we're going to try to focus on giving more time for fellowship, because last year was an amazing time. It was so amazing.
It was hectic. Yeah.
It was actually a year ago this month. A year ago. It was just a lot of speakers. A ton of great information, but not a lot of time for fellowshipping. So this year we definitely want to leave more time for, some maybe breakout sessions or some group time, things like that.
Lunch or
just to share a meal and some coffee and just
breaking bread.
Just make friends. People who are like-minded. It's definitely really important to have that fellowship and have community, and not just to listen to speakers for 12 hours a day, 2 days straight, but to actually make friends, lasting relationships. That's definitely the goal.
Yes. And to finally be able to, because the community, the ministry has grown so large, and there's so many new people that have discovered our work and listened to our shows, and that have been really blessed by the outreach that the Most High has allowed us to have. And we want to be able to hug you and to share time and space with you, and to interact with all of you guys and ladies, and to put face and voice to what has been just an internet presence and friendship. And so to be able to come together in community in that manner is going to be a true blessing. And we always enjoy, being able to do that. And so it will give us an opportunity to really meet face to face, one-on-one, and, again, to share time and meal and to break bread and to hang out with one another and to share dialogue. It's I think that in embracing community and being able to meet and empower, encourage each other, that's a beautiful thing, and that we should try to do more of that, and as we can.
Seek First in the chat said, no one asked me what I did for a living at that conference. First time ever, because people were actually speaking about real life. I can't stand going out and small talking with people oh, hey.
Right.
Nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? Oh, that's cool. Who's your favorite football team? Wow. Oh, do you like pizza? Having real conversation about what's going on in the world it's far and few between the people that you'll find that will engage in real conversations to talk about truth and to expose evil. It's exciting to make those types of friends. So it was a blessing to be able to meet with everybody, and we will be meeting again in May. It'll be an exciting time, and some people were asking where that will be. I think I'm not sure. We don't have the venue yet, but it will be somewhere, probably in North Atlanta again. Maybe more on the outskirts of Atlanta, because Atlanta itself is definitely being taken over by communist mindset, and
liberal.
A bunch of people want to do the hokey pokey and force you to do the hokey pokey, and one of the last articles that I wanted to bring up, actually the last article I wanted to bring up was there was a couple that an elderly couple that passed away just minutes apart from each other from CV.
Oh wow.
And
Mm,
and they were all fully hokey pokeyed out. You know, they had mastered the hokey pokey.
yeah.
And they died minutes apart. And
Wow.
they Yahoo News interviewed their daughter, I believe it was, and she said that it was comforting to know that her parents were together in both life and death, but her comfort turned to anger at the people who were not taking CV seriously. She said, I'm angry because so many people are like, if I catch it, I catch it. That's what it is. No, it's not. It could be any person. It could be anybody. They did everything right. They did everything to the protocol the way it should be done.
Mhm.
All right. So, you know, condolences. This lady lost her parents.
Yes, of
Really,
course.
you know, very sad,
Right.
unfortunate.
Right.
But her anger is totally misguided. You know, if your parents did
Right.
everything to protocol and danced the hokey pokey as well as they could, they should have been protected. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They should have
Regardless
been
of
fine.
what somebody else does.
Right.
Especially if your dance works, you don't need somebody else to come dance it with you.
Right. Yeah, one of the ladies that works for me, one of her best friends, just recently, her mother got the hokey pokey, and it was a week later that she passed away. And she knows without a doubt,
That's
that it
unfortunate.
was, yeah, that there's a correlation there. And
Mhm.
people aren't recognizing, aren't acknowledging, and yet this is happening more and more. There's a lot of also, famous people, Hank Aaron and Larry King and others, that same thing, the same correlation. And so people have to question themselves, um, is there a consequence? Is this the repercussion? And, really start putting it together that, maybe there is. And if there is, as we've been saying, maybe, you might want to avoid that hokey pokey dance um, and, just build natural immunity, take vitamin C, and uh, keep yourself protected from forced all of that.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's super unfortunate. You know, and the sad part is that the dance masters, the choreographers who, you know, make the choreography for the hokey pokey dance, they have no liability. No liability.
Right,
They don't
they're
even
actually
have to
protected.
report. They don't even have to
Yeah.
report any negative, any injuries that come
Yes.
from the dance. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes. Yeah, and
And
they're
that's all
protected from
hidden.
any kind of, liability. Um, and even now with the OSHA, like a lot of the employment, those that are trying to force uh, their employees and to mandate this, um, they're they're also speaking about how if that's what you want to do, then the OSHA laws, they're trying to say that, well, then you also have to be liable for negative consequence. And, the businesses are not wanting to go there. They don't want to accept that responsibility because of the uncertainty. There's no, um, all this is still in experimental, and nobody, well, a lot of people are paying for uh, doing and allowing themselves to be involved and to listen to the propaganda and to allow themselves to be swayed that way. And now they're trying to mandate for children. They just want to give lower dose for 5 to 11-year-olds, and it's just a matter of time. I mean, all these people that are receiving, we'll see, because there's going to be repercussions to their actions.
Yeah, I actually read today, Joe came out and told everybody, you got to do the hokey pokey. If you are, a federal worker, if you are employed by a business that has 100 or more employees, and he had said that, this mandate is going to be based on a rule that OSHA is going to put out in the future. But they haven't put out any rule yet. They have I don't think they have any legal justification to make that rule. There's some real battles that are going to be going on over people who want to protect their freedoms, who own companies, and conservative governors and senators, et cetera, lawyers, judges that are going to be fighting that. I think it's going to be a long battle, but I think that he just came out and bluffed, whether it was legal or not, just to get people to go ahead and do it.
Right.
I don't think they care.
The
if
line
it's
is
legal
definitely be drawn in the sand,
Mm-hmm.
And people are being forced to take one side or the other. But we have arrived to the end of the show, everybody, and we thank all of you. And the one person that asked about being married to somebody that's Rh negative, just know that the Savior died for all of us, and that even the seed of Cain, those even born into Illuminati families, that they can be saved through Christ. Just accept him as Messiah, and the free gift.
The power of the Messiah's
salvation.
blood is greater than any of our sins.
Exactly. And so don't be worried. We are all under the grace of the Most High. Just have to accept him as Savior Messiah, and that we can be redeemed and restored to our first estate through him, because he is the Savior for all of us.
Amen. Yeah, study it, find it. That is the truth. That is the truth, whether you believe it or not. Keep on that journey. Don't take our word for it. Do your own research, and you will come to find that truth for yourself. And always, you have a direct line to the Creator. You just drop a thought, drop a prayer. He will hear it, because he is infinite. And he will reach out to you, because he created you with a purpose to know him, to love him, and to be loved by him. And he wants you to know how much he loves you. So, we love you as well. And prayerfully, all of us here who are believers, I pray that you will share that love with the world. That's our message, to share that love and our purpose.
Yes.
I love you guys.
Amen.
And love you, Dad. Thanks for having me.
Love you too, son. Just so you know, we'll be on with Kylie in the follow-up on the proclamation of peace tomorrow night. See you then, everyone. Be blessed.
Shalom.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Shalom.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you, and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.